little bit about how location-based services can do those same three things. Right now, checking in is not convenient enough for mainstream people to be doing it. Like to take out your phone, to open up your application, to go into the venue pages, to search for the venue you're at, to wait for it to come up, to select it, to check in, to decide whether or not you want to save it, you want to send it to Twitter and Facebook. That's like, it's too much of a process for the mainstream consumer to really grasp. So we're thinking about ways we can make it more convenient. And one of the ways we can make things more convenient is to employ this passive location sharing, or sometimes it's called the passive check-in. So passive check-in, the idea behind the passive check-in is just that your location is shared automatically. And that comes in like a bunch of different forms. So Glimpse is one technology that we look at that does that, where you can basically like send someone an email with a link and say, for the next half an hour, you can track my activity exactly. So you can send it to your grandmother and say, I'm on my way, and then she can open it up and see that you're, like going over the river and through the woods on your way to her house. Then you've got like, Near does the same kind of thing. It's kind of marketed toward families. You set preferences of places and times of day so that, like a mother can know when her son gets to school or when her husband is on his way home from work. And then this is the icon for Google Latitude. I think Vautier was talking a little bit about Google Latitude is kind of like constant location sharing. So you create this kind of small network of trusted friends and you say, okay, well, they're allowed to track my location wherever I go. This technology, Mayor Maker, is built on top of the Foursquare platform, and it lets you set preferences for like distance and location. So you can say, okay, at my favorite coffee shop, whenever my phone detects that I am less than 200 meters away, I want to be checked in. Now, the obvious pitfall in all of that, because the technology isn't developed yet, is what if you get checked into locations where you are not actually there? And then your girlfriend says, how come you're going to the same Starbucks 3 times a day? And you say, I'm not going to the same Starbucks 3 times a day. And she says, yes, you are. Foursquare doesn't lie. And you say, well, Foursquare does lie. And she says, you're probably having an affair with the barista. Now, I'm not saying that happened, but I'm not saying it couldn't happen. So, because the baristas like to flirt a lot. So anyway, and then there's Shopkick, and Shopkick Walter talked a little bit about, but Shopkick also has this other element, aside from barcode scanning, that gives you points, that tracks where you are within a store, and it uses an audio signal to communicate with your phone so that a business can know like who comes into the store, what aisles they go down, how long they spend in each aisle, which aisles they double back on, and that's all really valuable information for businesses. And I mean, at Shopkick, it's kind of active right now, but that technology could easily be applied to a passive sharing. Another way that LBS is becoming more convenient is through this development of NFC technology. So NFC doesn't just stand for National Football Conference anymore. It stands for Near Field Communication. And Near Field Communication is this technology that can send information from between devices once they're within 4 inches of each other. And so this can be applied to, like, let's say you can go into a hotel, you can literally check into the hotel without going to the front desk and go to your hotel room and unlock the door with your phone. That's kind of the way that things are moving in terms of, that makes things really convenient for people. Google's experimenting with NFC technology in the Portland market right now. They've been giving out window clings with NFC chips in them, and using an NFC-enabled phone, you can just tap your phone on the window of the storefront when you go in, and then you can interact with the venue that way. And that saves, that kind of shortcuts that whole long process of checking in that I described earlier. So that's making LBS more convenient. So let's talk a little bit about how to make LBS more valuable. Walter and Neil both talked about location-based deals. And at A&G, we talk a lot about the ideal location-based deal. And we have this thing called the Ben & Jerry's rule. And the Ben & Jerry's rule states that any location-based deal should be at least as awesome as the Ben & Jerry special. And the Ben & Jerry special was 3 scoops for $3, and if you're the mayor, you get an extra scoop for free. And that's kind of like the ideal location-based deal as we see it right now, because it's available to anybody. Anybody who checks in can get this deal. It's also a really good deal. Like, you won't find 3 scoops of ice cream for $3 anywhere else. That's something that will motivate people to check in. And there's an aspirational layer to it too, because if you're the mayor of the venue, you get an extra scoop for free. And so a lot of these specials are either like the mayor can get it or everybody can get it. So if everybody can get it, then there's no incentive to return as a loyal customer and to try to earn that mayorship. But if only the mayor can get it, then there might not be a reason to check into this restaurant because you say, well, I'm never going to get this special because I'm never going to be here more than the guy who's here, 58 times in 60 days. And I wonder if he's here right now, and you start looking around. And so that's why this is kind of like the ideal location-based deal. And that's a really valuable value proposition for people. Vautier talked a little bit about recommendation engines. So this is another way that location-based services are creating value, is they're kind of taking these pieces of data, your check-ins, your previous activities, your personal preferences, and mixing them all together and coming up with recommendations for other things or other places or other bars that you might want to go to try based on your previous data. So some of the companies that are working on this, Vautier talked a lot about Whirl. Whirl is it's headed up by the guy who created the Amazon recommendation engine. When you go on an Amazon page, it says, people who viewed this item also viewed these items and ultimately bought these items. And they're trying to take that and apply it to the real world now. Where does the same kind of thing with the places that you've dog-eared as your favorites or the places that you've rated. And Busy has you fill out like a really long survey, and then based on your results of the survey, it gives you recommendations for things that other people are recommending that are similar to you. So there's a little bit of audience segmentation that goes on there. This is the logo. I don't think they really use this much, but this is the logo for Google Hotpot, and Google Hotpot is like Google's new recommendation engine, and that's based on ratings and stuff too. And then I have Foursquare in brackets here because Foursquare's kind of working on this. They've talked a lot about it in a couple of interviews about they've got a lot of data and they could easily serve up a recommendation engine once they figure out how to deliver it to people. So that's something to keep an eye on too. Another way to create value for people with LBS is to build it into a loyalty program. So Vons is this, it's a convenience store, a grocery store that's a sub-brand of Safeway. It's mostly out west, but Vons has this program that lets you hook up your Foursquare account to your loyalty card so that they can serve you up more accurate deals based on your previous activity. So if you have the gym rat badge, which means you've been to a gym 10 times in 30 days, they'll give you more deals that are like healthier food, like Sobe Life Water. Or if you check into a lot of seafood restaurants, they might give you deals on special seafood, or Italian restaurants or Mexican restaurants or whatever. So if people can notice that they can use their location data to get special, more targeted, more personalized deals, that's something that can motivate people to use LBS. So let's talk a little bit about how we can make LBS more secure and help people understand that it's more secure. So at A&G, when we talk about LBS security, we talk about this give-to-get exchange. And the give-to-get exchange kind of is this idea that consumers will give data in exchange for rewards. So a consumer can give purchase data or sentiment data or location data, and in exchange get some kind of reward from a brand. So the way that that's kind of taking place right now is with, if you think about CVS loyalty cards, like how many people have a CVS loyalty card? So CVS knows every time you buy something at CVS, every time you use that loyalty card. So like you've shared with CVS that you've bought a wart remover kit, right? But you wouldn't want to post that on Facebook and Twitter because that's not something that you would want to share. But you'll share it with CVS because they'll give you coupons for more wart remover kits, and you kind of trust that there's this secure connection between the data exchange and the reward. And so that's the kind of thing that we have to apply to LBS. So the reward doesn't always have to be a physical reward. It can also be an intangible reward. So Vautier and Neil both touched on this about different badges can be rewards, or virtual items could be rewards, or virtual status can be a reward too. That will motivate people to give data as well. And we're seeing a couple different brands experiment with that. But what we think is the holy grail of location-based marketing is this idea that you can take purchase data and location data and sentiment data from the consumers and kind of mash it all together into this like robust profile of your customers. And you can know all these things that you wouldn't have known before. So you can know like how your customers are feeling about a certain visit that they had, but also the size of wallet that they have, or the share of the wallet that you're getting, because you can track where else they're going and where else they're spending money. This is kind of an idea that is called, we call it social loyalty, and there's a white paper that my boss wrote that you might want to check out. It's at bit.ly/loyaltywp, and it's called Loyalty in 4D, and it's all about social loyalty and how brands and consumers and platforms can really succeed by employing loyalty programs. So that's kind of all I have. If you want to find out a little more about this stuff, you can follow Alan Garrettson on Twitter, or you can follow me on Twitter because I talk about it all the time. So thanks for coming out in a snowstorm to hear about this stuff.